Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, they're trying to age verify our operating systems now. You might be like, whoa, that's crazy, Muta. What do you mean age verify an operating system? How does that even make sense? Today, ladies and gentlemen, in the episode of Some Ordinary Gamers and Man Screams of the Clouds, or whatever you want to call me, I am about to read some of the most insanely stupid legal jargon written by a politician. I hate politicians, okay? I would rather, I shit you not, I swear, it is the month of Ramadan right now. I swear on everything holy, I would rather be waterboarded, okay? I would rather be waterboarded in Guantanamo Bay every single day for a year of my life than listen to a politician yap in my ear for 5 fucking minutes, okay? They are that horrible. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, okay, this is not that rant. Age attestation on computing devices. Okay, this is a bill that is being brought in, obviously, for children and domestic matters. Now, who brings this bill? Matt Ball and Amy Paschal, okay? 2 Democrats over here who, ladies and gentlemen, clearly, I don't know if they understand how computers work, but actually, it is going to become very evident when we read this bill, okay? This bill requires an operating system provider to provide an accessible interface at account setup that requires an account holder to indicate the birth date or age of the user of that device, to provide a signal regarding the user's age bracket to applications available in a covered store. So to give you an idea, okay, just a quick understanding, most modern operating systems, and I'm including cell phones in this as well, you typically are centralized. And what I mean by that is, you know when you make a Windows account, for the most part, they pretty much hound you to make an online Microsoft account when you're setting up a new Windows installation. Now, yes, there are ways to make a local account for now. Generally, Microsoft wants you to connect through their servers when you're setting up your own computer, which is insane in my opinion, but that's the world we've gotten to. When you buy a MacBook, you're very incentivized to make an iCloud account. Now, I believe you can make a local Mac account and totally skip the online pleasantries, but a lot of these companies kind of like goad you into that, okay? They like, make the online account, okay? Now, obviously, for cell phones, Apple, kind of the same thing. When you buy an iPhone, they kind of goad you into that iCloud. And when you buy a Google phone, they kind of goad you into that Google thing. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this rule, and some of those exceptions are so simple that you can go to Google, for instance, buy one of these Pixel phones, right? I don't know if this is the exact one, but you can buy some of these Pixel phones, and they're good phones from what I hear, but if you don't want Google's spying on you, then you can just go install Graphene OS through your actual web browser. It is so easy that you plug your phone into your computer through a USB port, basically literally follow the instructions on the screen right now, and you can install Graphene OS privacy focused onto your Android device, right? So again, this is one of the pathways we can take to avoid and circumvent stupid bills like this, which is one of the reasons why I said this is some of the stupidest forms of legislation. They are trying to legislate something that is unlegislatable, okay? The lion does not care about the bullshit laws you pass, okay? Anyways, so to give you an idea, provide an application developer that requests an age signal. So basically, when you set up an account, they're going to make it so that you can put in a birth date, right? Now, again, I don't know if it's as simple as put in the birth date, because if it's that simple, we are back to the early 2000s where accessing an adult website, typically, you know, when they were like, are you an adult or not? Yeah? Come on in, pal. No, if that's what we're at, then this is a pointless law. But anyways, provides an application developer that requests an age signal with respect to a particular user the technical ability to call an age signal via a reasonably consistent real-time API that identifies, at minimum, the user's age bracket data. And then they send only the minimum amount of information necessary to comply with the bill. An OS provider shall not share an H signal with a third party for a purpose not required by bill. So the last bullet point sounds like, whoa, they must have plugged up all the fucking holes, huh, Muda? Oh, this is a slam dunk. Not necessarily, guys. Look down over here. The bill requires a developer to request an age signal with respect to a particular user from an OS provider or a covered application store when the developer's application is downloaded and launched. The developer then receives an age signal, is deemed to have knowledge of the age range of the user to whom the age signal pertains across all platforms of the application and points of access to the applications. However, and this is the important part, okay, inside all of this, if a developer has clear and convincing information that a user's age is different than the age indicated by the signal, the developer shall use that information as the primary indicator. So immediately we went beyond, hey, just give us your age, to use other factors. Now, what are those other factors? I don't know. If I'm typing 6'7" to my buddies in Discord and the OS is monitoring that, is it going to assume that I'm a fucking child? Or is it going to think, oh, this is an adult with a fucking absolute immature sense of humor at 2 in the morning while they're playing Phasmophobia together, okay? I don't know. It's a set of ones and zeros. It's not human. It can't logically think, okay? That is the unfortunate situation. So again, the developer shall not request more information from an OS or a covered application store than is necessary to reply. But again, the operating system should also, again, according to this bill, understand if there's other signals, you're probably, if you're underage and you lied about your age, it's up to the OS to basically make sure they're sending the right info. Effectively, they said that the bill does have civil penalties, so no more than $2,500 for each minor affected by a negligent violation, and no more than $7,500 for each minor affected by intentional violation. So again, none of these bills are actually passed yet. Yet is the key word. But the other thing is, they're also bills that aren't going to target you yet. Because again, if you lie about your age, they're targeting mostly Apple, Microsoft, and Google in this. And again, you can read these bills even further for yourself too. Again, this is a full thing that you can read. It's not terribly long. It's like 9 pages. And again, the actual shit is going to happen mostly for existing devices by July 1st, 2028. They have to provide an interface that allows you to give your actual age. Now again, this is solely unenforceable, and the reason why this is happening is because companies like Meta, for instance, at least in Canada, are trying to lobby the government into saying, hey guys, don't put the blame on us, put the blame on the operating systems, the application stores out there, right? So what they basically mean by that is, instead of going to things like Instagram, for instance, right? Typically, if you were on an iPhone, in order to access Instagram.com or the Instagram service, you download the Instagram application. Now, Apple does do age attestation, so meaning that if you do download applications where they want to know your age, sometimes they'll give you a little pop-up that says, hey, do you want us to send them very minimal information to just tell them that you're an adult? Because Apple should, in theory, know you're an adult, because at least in my case, I do pay them like $1 a month for extra iCloud for my family. So they should be able to know that I am a legal adult, right? And they can basically attest for me. Now, this is not a universal thing whatsoever, but to give you an idea, what Meta wants is, instead of them being responsible, basically they're saying, let Apple be the ones responsible. So if Apple is basically distributing Instagram, they're the ones that have to make it so that they're the ones that decide if you're an adult or not before the application even downloads. And the same would go for Google and for Microsoft, if you're using the Microsoft Store, say, for example, to download applications. Now, these kind of laws are really stupid because ultimately they are unenforceable, okay? They're unenforceable for a lot of reasons, right? For one, I feel like the politicians that write this garbage don't actually use computers, okay? They probably have only ever used like an iPhone or something, and they thought, wow, this must be really easy. Make it on the App Store. Dog, how are you going to enforce this on Windows, okay? Where people can go to the internet, for instance, right? Like if I wanted to download anything from like, you know, the internet, like if I wanted to get 7-zip, I could just go to their website, download the exe file for my Windows system, and just install it. Here's something really scary. You can go to places like GitHub and download open source projects and just install whatever you want on your system. Even Macintoshes that are designed to be so locked down just to protect the average user. You You can download whatever you want there. How are you going to handle things like Linux, for instance? How are you going to push age attestation on operating systems that are massive global open source projects? Like if you go to kernel.org, Linux is a project that anybody can grab from here and fork and basically, make their own Linux distribution, right? There's so many different distributions that exist. You can go to Arch Linux, okay? You can just go here. You can download this and actually install and run your own Linux within minutes. You can actually install Ubuntu if you wanted, one of the most used and accessible versions of Linux out there. You can get Jubuntu if you're somebody of that faith. You can get Halal OS if you wanted. You can get Azure Linux, which is Microsoft's own internal Linux. You can get Gentoo Linux if you really hate yourself. You can get Fedora Linux. You can get CachyOS, which is what I use. I mean, how the fuck are you going to enforce things like Rebecca Black OS at this point, all right? This is the stupidity of these organizations. They don't understand that you can't govern an operating system. The reason why this law could make sense is if you wanted to go after something like Microsoft, right? Remember, Microsoft, Windows, it's a closed American-based company. And even if you were to pass this law in Colorado, for instance, that's their jurisdictional limit, right? Would Microsoft even so much as contend with this outside of the state of Colorado? But again, Microsoft, because they're centralized, because you have to make a Microsoft account, or at least that's the direction they're going to use Windows, they are going to be the arbiters on, who is a child, who is an adult, right? And whatever metrics they grab from your computer that, can correct you if you enter a wrong date, that's something I really want to see in the future as this kind of bullshit law is being thrown in. You've got Apple, who runs, Macintosh. They're the ones that are obviously going to be targeted by this. They have to contend with this. But how would you go after Linux? How would you go after distributable Android operating systems that people sideload onto their phones anyways? It's so unenforceable, it's not even funny, okay? And that's not even including just Linux. How would you enforce things like FreeBSD, which is a different type of Unix operating system? Again, these people don't understand what they're trying to do. Politicians are fucking brain damaged to the point that they don't even understand the technology they are trying to govern. They're passing laws, and here's what I think. Again, this is a conspiracy theory that I guess people can hound me for, but I really think that this is pushed by a lot of the big tech firms. I think this is pushed by a lot of the mass surveillance in our country, in the world, that people want as a way to sort of invoke this and make it normalized. Age attestation and age verification is never to protect children. It's to open a new wave of regulated technologies that are designed to monitor and control what you can and cannot do on the devices you purchase. That's my personal belief, okay? I don't think these bills are introduced with the intention of protecting the children. And when you see how stupid they are, okay, all you can do is just laugh. They're unenforceable pieces of garbage that you wouldn't even waste time wiping your ass with. But again, this is not just Colorado, okay? I wouldn't make this video if it wasn't just Colorado. California, which is one of the most influential states in the US, has introduced bills like Assembly Bill 1043, which, if we actually read it, talks about age verification in regards to the operating system. So again, beginning January 1st, 2027, basically age verification with respect to software applications and operating system provider will provide an accessible interface at the account setup. So when you're making your Microsoft account, your iCloud account, your whatever account, will require an account holder to indicate birth date, age, or both of the user of that device for the purpose of providing a signal regarding the user's age bracket. Now again, if these companies are not grabbing everything else alongside you, like a driver's license or anything, if all they do is ask you for your age, like your birth date, this is the most pointless law to be passed. Everyone's gonna fucking lie about their age. So obviously they're going to be looking for other signals that signal your age, right? And what are those signals? What is that monitoring? I wish these people were more transparent with it. Now again, these laws, you can read them all you want, but they basically don't. The problem with it, again, like I said, it's unenforceable trash, okay? You cannot enforce this garbage on the average person. That's the problem. These politicians are introducing age verification into our OSs. They're actually targeting the operating system level. We are moving from, at first it was like, hey, if you want to go to a website like Pornhub.com, you have to provide your ID, okay? Now it's like, hey, if you want to actually use this application on your phone, provide your ID. Hey, if you want to actually, use if you want to use your operating system in an adult manner, you got to provide some level of ID or verification. How would they even enforce this on things like Linux? Like, is the terminal going to come up and is it going to say sudo user mod AG? Is it going to be like grown-ups? Is that the groups? Is it the grown-ups group? Is it going to throw me in there? Again, it's unenforceable trash. But the thing is, it should worry you because they want to push this onto the operating system. And again, if these pass nationwide, internationally, it just becomes normalized, right? When big areas start passing it. This is how it happens. It doesn't start from like a blanket pass everywhere. It starts in California, then in Colorado, then in places like Texas, then in places like Florida, then in provinces like Ontario, countries like the United Kingdom, and then it becomes a global fucking epidemic. Remember, Discord age verified the entire world. They're pushing for age verification globally. Even though it's not a law globally, they just decided to do that. And now these politicians want to force companies, especially ones that run our operating systems, the deepest levels of our systems, running age verification bloat on top. This is not okay. And again, if there was ever a bigger like commercial to go self-hosting, to start using Linux or something and take back ownership of the stuff that you purchase, this is probably the wake-up call, okay? To me, as a Linux user, I laugh at this doc shit. Because I know from a technical level, it's so unenforceable. But to see these politicians throw this shit out there is worrying, regardless of the fact of how funny it is and how unenforceable this trash is. So yeah, they want to age verify our operating systems. Wild day, man. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.